This poor kid sitting on the side of the stage, like holding his head with like blood dripping down his face, like someone turned a blood faucet on. What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is the Punk Rock MBA, and welcome back to another edition of Viewer Comments. This time we are going to talk about Joy Division, Henry Rollins, Brand of Sacrifice, why it costs $1 million for a house in Seattle. We're going to talk about anime, Tom MacDonald, Franz's OnlyFans, why I don't like indie rock, and a bunch of other stuff. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you get all my videos. First up, from Roy Mofield, if you could pick a supergroup, any genre, what would your picks be? You know what, I think I would do it as a reality competition show. Like if you remember Puff Daddy's Making the Band show that he did or whatever back in the day. And I think the people that I would have in this band would be Tommy Vext, Courtney Love, Glenn Danzig, Joe Budden, Trisha Paytas, Tom MacDonald, and Sam from Architects. And we would tell them that the premise for the show was that they were supposed to make like a ultimate supergroup demo that would get them signed to a big Victory Records deal. But in reality, it's all a big setup like the Truman Show. And the real plot of the show is to see how many episodes poor Sam from Architects can make it before he walks out on all these crazy people and quits the show. Next one, from Refractor. Do you listen to electronic music? And if so, what do you listen to? I don't know a ton about electronic music, but I did listen to a lot of it back in the day. A lot of the like more aggressive American style drum and bass, like AK-1200, Diesel Boy, Dara, Photek. I really liked how much the visuals tied into all of it. Like as a graphic designer, that was one of my biggest influences. That actually is what got me to listen to that stuff in the first place, is just like how cool the flyers and covers looked. From Corporal Quig, be honest, did you get a chubby when you went onto Franz OnlyFans? It's a little awkward. Like I just talked to Franz a little bit on Instagram, so I don't really know him, but still it feels like watching one of your friends do that, which is just kind of a strange thing, right? It reminded me of that interview with Daylight where he talks about P. Diddy calling the homies over to watch him put in work.
Saying it's Diddy. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm about to fuck this bitch, my nigga. You wanna come watch? Yeah, I'm gonna show you how it's done, my nigga. Call up the homies and come through. From Benjamin Eric, maybe do a video on metal in Japan, covering some of the bands and influences of those bands and what the outlook is on metal in Asia as a whole. That is something that I will do a video about. To make a long story short, would you care about the same bands as much if they were from Canada? And if not, why not? Like, what is so special about being from Japan? And before anybody says anything, I've been to Japan and I was watching anime in like 1989. I can read katakana, so like, I'm not ignorant about Japan. And I think a lot of the reason why people like it is because they have this kind of strange fetishistic relationship with Japanese stuff. So I will do a whole video about it, but those are my thoughts in a nutshell. From Otto Hagios, why was the Boondock Saints every hardcore / metalcore kid's favorite movie in the early 2000s? Whew. The people who love this movie tend to be the kind of people that wear those like cabbie hats that you only see on like old Greek men and ska fans, the kind of people that identify as Irish even though they're like 4th generation Americans, only own one book and that book is Fight Club, and they've seen the FSU episode of Gangland like 50 times. From Ignatius, you've mentioned that you support trans rights. Do you follow any trans creators? Well, first of all, you know, the idea of trans rights is itself kind of weird to me because I guess I don't see trans people as fundamentally different than anybody else. So to me, it's just like there are human rights and those human rights should apply to trans people, if that makes sense. As far as any trans creators, I do follow a few of them. I love Blair White. I think she's amazing. I think ContraPoints is great too. They're sort of two opposite ends of the spectrum that oftentimes don't agree with each other, but I think they're both great.
I transed 4 people this morning for a breakfast.
From Alex and his vids, what upcoming albums by artists are you looking forward to this year? Well, I don't actually really care about albums. I just care about songs. On occasion, there's a whole album that holds together. For example, like I Disagree by Poppy, I think is one of the few pieces of music that actually warrants being an album, in my opinion. For the most part, I think that albums have, you know, if you're lucky, 2 or 3 really good songs on them and 7 or 8 like filler ones. So I would rather just have the 2 or 3 good ones and you can keep the 7 or 8 that I'm never going to listen to. From Stefan or Steven, have you ever looked back on old videos, seen the comments and had a rethink looking at, say, the Henry Rollins one? Still stand behind everything I said in that video 100%. He did a lot for me when I was a kid as far as helping me think in kind of a way that was different from the way a lot of punk bands were talking, so I appreciate that. But I do still think it's sad that at his age, he seems to have so much difficulty with relationships and kind of intimacy, I guess you would say, and I think it's kind of sad that he ended up there. That's what I said in the video, and I still feel that way. From Final Boss 97, have you actually listened to any other song by Joy Division other than Love Will Tear Us Apart? Because that song doesn't really represent their post-punk style as well. I don't like them. And when someone says that they don't like a thing that you like, you just kind of got to respect that. You can't say like, oh, well, that's because you didn't hear this, or you didn't understand that, or you didn't think about it this way. You know, maybe people just don't like it, and you just got to kind of let them not like the thing that you like. From OR.EN, who would you take in a fight? Power violence guy or vegan straight edge guy? Are we talking about the power violence kind of guy that's like the despise you, excruciating terror, lack of interest, like semi-gangster, South Central kind of dude? Or are we talking about the later incarnation of power violence, the kind of semi-crusty punk, kind of Richmond, Virginia kid who really wishes it was 1982 and he was in Negative Approach? From Spellbinding Circle Productions, property prices in Seattle are crazy. If you were to relocate somewhere, where would it be? Well, you are not wrong about that, especially we live kind of closer to the east side of the Seattle area, like in Bellevue and Kirkland. If you're familiar with the area, you know you're gonna pay close to $1 million for a house. Sometimes we talk about moving to Texas, like Houston or something like that, but I feel like everybody in the West Coast is talking about moving to Texas now, so I think we'll stay put. It's just so nice here. It's beautiful. To me, the outdoorsy stuff is the part that I really like the most.
Hello, Seattle, I am a mountain deer.
From Parker Graham 16, what do you think of Tom MacDonald and how he is marketed towards old right-wing armchair warriors on Facebook? If you haven't heard him, essentially he's like a white grievance rapper. I know people say that he's more than that, and he is, that's true. He does talk about other stuff, but that's really what he's known for, is being kind of the anti-SJW rapper. And I just think that's corny. I'm critical of a lot of the same things that he criticizes. I'm not big on cancel culture or woke scolds or any of that stuff, but I think if you are the person who defines yourself by complaining about SJWs, then you're the same as the SJWs. From SCT Carter, tell us about the wildest thing you've seen happen in a mosh pit, circle pit, wall of death, etc. I saw Earth Crisis in, I think it was probably 97 or 98 in Cleveland. And at the time they had some beef with this band called One Life Crew, who was from Cleveland. If you haven't heard of them, look them up. They're sort of the Tom MacDonald of hardcore, very cringe. And so when Earth Crisis came to town, the guys from One Life Crew thought it would be cool to show up and fuck with them at the show and troll them and wear fur coats, and I think they like threw cheese at him or something like that because Earth Crisis is a vegan straight edge band, and so they thought it would be super clever to throw cheese at him because haha, vegans are gay. The guys from One Life Crew and some of their friends were up on stage fighting the guys from Earth Crisis, and I remember Ian from Earth Crisis took his bass like an axe and swung it, like trying to hit one of the guys from One Life Crew, I think, but he missed and hit an Earth Crisis fan. Some poor kid like whacked him in the head with his bass and like almost knocked the kid out. They stopped the show, the lights are on, whatever, and this poor kid sitting on the side of the stage like holding his head with like blood dripping down his face, like someone turned a blood faucet on, and Ian's like, hey man, sorry about that. And the kid's like, oh, it's okay. Like probably trying not to pass out from blood loss. So I don't know who that kid was. I hope he was okay. And that's probably the wildest thing I ever saw at a show. From Trev Flips, I stopped watching your channel. The angle you're going for now won't last. Do a nostalgia channel. Well, Trev, thanks for the vote of confidence. Oh, that thing you want to do? It fucking sucks. Don't do it. From Moody Queen, are you up for meet and greets in the Seattle area? Yes, absolutely. As soon as it's safe to do that, I would love to set one up. I was actually going to do one in 2020, but I don't know. There was a thing that happened, this global pandemic you guys may have heard of, that kind of got in the way, but I will definitely set one of these up and I will announce it as soon as I can. From Madeline Casey, I'd love to hear about what you don't like. You always try and find the positives in unpopular genres and artists. I was wondering where the line is for you. The one video I do want to make is about why I don't like indie rock, because that is a question that a lot of people ask me about, and honestly, I'm kind of trying to figure that question out for myself. It's just something I've just always disliked. And other than, I guess what I would just say, small PP energy, I can't quite put my finger on what it is.
Small PP, I got a small PP.
From Risen Skyline, I recall you saying you didn't like Brand of Sacrifice and other new school overproduced deathcore. Fast forward a month later, I see you following them on Instagram now. Did you have a change in opinion for Brand of Sacrifice? I would say probably 3/4 of my friends are in bands that I don't like. I still support the band and my friends. So the reason I follow Brand of Sacrifice is because I would say that although the deathcore scene in general is not what it used to be, they are standouts in that scene and I want to pay attention to what they're doing because I respect it. From My Last Channel Got Deleted, what's the size of your yeehaw? Well, I mean, I think my yeehaw is pretty normal size. Like it's, you know, 1 to 1.5 inches flaccid and like 2 to 3 inches when it's fully engaged. I mean, that's normal, right? Please, somebody tell me that's normal.
My PP so small, I only have balls.
From RJ Thorne, do you or did you ever watch anime? If so, which anime would you say is your favorite? I absolutely love Death Note. Attack on Titan is great. Bakuman is great, which I think is from the creator of Death Note. I've watched every single episode of Naruto, I think, other than the filler ones, because my wife is an obsessive Naruto fan. I actually started watching that when it came out back in 2005 or whatever. I would download fan subs of it and watch it on my PSP. That's how much of a nerd I am. But for the most part, you know, I like the way anime looks, but I don't find it entertaining enough to watch. So I don't know. I keep trying to like it, but I just don't, for the most part. From Dr. Gore Wizard, if you could go back in time and restructure your YouTube channel with what you know now, how would you change it, if at all? Maybe, you know, over the last year or so, I would have maybe covered more current stuff and less nostalgia stuff, just to kind of prevent myself from getting boxed into that a little bit. My friend Chase Jarvis told me this many years ago: create the work that you want to get hired to create more of. It is so simple, it's so true, and I would say the same thing with videos. Like, put out the videos that you want to be known for. From Death Squad Design, who are some of your favorite visual artists? I want to do a video about this because visual art is something that I've always been super passionate about. A few of my favorites would be like Pushead. You probably know him from doing stuff for like Misfits and Metallica. I also love a lot of West Coast graffiti. Like I have like originals on my wall here in our house from like GK, who you may know if you're into graffiti, you know who that is. From RB, from LTS and KOG. I could go on forever about this. I also went to school for graphic design for a couple years, and I was a graphic designer for years. So real into a lot of like old school German and Swiss typography, like Josef Müller-Brockmann and Emil Ruder, Armin Hoffman. Like I could go on about this stuff for literally hours, and maybe someday I will. From Danielle Lewis Glass, where's the best pho restaurant in Seattle? If you're in the Seattle area and you want Vietnamese food, you should go to Rainier Barbecue. It's not a pho place. It's like a sit-down restaurant that serves a lot of stuff you won't find at pho restaurants. Their signature thing that I really like a lot is this like particular kind of salad, goey ramun, I think is what it's called. It's not the best looking place in the world, but you know, Vietnamese restaurants typically aren't. From Tyler Granger, what kind of video game would the Punk Rock MBA be? Action adventure or Guitar Hero with the Dance Gavin Dance riffs? It would be one of those games that like when you're on Steam browsing your discovery queue and you see some new game come up and you're like, oh, how have I never seen this before? And then you kind of realize, oh, it's one of those games. It's called Arousing Tentacle Dungeon, and it's full of like DeviantArt level hentai artwork. And one of the features is highly detailed erotic graphics. So if I was gonna make a Punk Rock MBA game, it would be one of those, a Steam hentai game. From Chris Pilkey, ever think about covering and talking about music that is good that people actually listen to? Chris, my audience does not want me to talk about music that's good that people actually want to listen to. They want me to talk about Dance Gavin Dance and Black Dahlia Murder and Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza and folk punk. But in all seriousness, I would love to talk about pop and rap more on this channel because I listen to a lot of that stuff and I think there's a lot of interesting things to say there. I don't know if that's what my audience wants from me, but I'm going to try to kind of tiptoe there a little bit, and if I get support for it, I will do more of it, and if not, oh well, at least I tried. From Itchy2007, I've seen an intense blowjob face on the thumbnail of one of your recent videos. I know it ain't your swag, so how does it feel to do stuff like that out of necessity? Oh, do you mean a face like this? Well, first of all, if anybody's giving you a blowjob with that face, I have questions. It's not like I'm doing stuff that I hate to do, like I'm forcing myself to make these corny thumbnails. I'm like, oh, no, I think it's funny. I try to make the most stupid, ridiculous thumbnails I can and like make a game out of it. How hard can I make myself and everybody else cringe? From Holloway Lane, how do you find out about all the cool things currently happening? I try to keep my ears out, but I learn about all these new acts through you. I am not like first to any trend. because I can't be. Like, I have too much going on in my life. You know, when I was younger, I would like spend hours reading message boards and magazine interviews and all this stuff. Like, I wanted to be the first to know about every single little thing. I just can't do that anymore, and I don't really want to try. So I look at myself as kind of maybe on the second or third step of the ladder. I'm not the first, but I'm not the last. And so what I do is I just read my comments, I read my DMs, I pay attention to conversations that are happening, and I figure if something is cool and important, I'm gonna hear about it. I'm definitely not like the most plugged in person out there by any means. From Weston Long, is graphic design a legit field to enter? If you want to be a creator of any kind, like an artist, you really need to understand the business side of it as well. You know, with graphic design, there's lots of people that make a cool logo or flyer or whatever, or cool animation, and the client doesn't like it because it doesn't actually address the business problem, or maybe they just haven't explained how it addresses the business problem. For example, if you're making a poster for a movie, you need to explain to the client why the design choices you made are actually going to help them sell more tickets, not just like, well, I did it because it looks cool. To me, that's the key to having a good career as a graphic designer. Good meaning that you're going to work with clients who respect you and let you do your best work, is being able to understand and articulate how your work actually creates value for your clients. From All Systems Go, are there any YouTubers or channels that you follow that inspire you in your own work or content? Patrick H. Willems is awesome. He's like a film YouTuber. He's kind of one of the people that inspired me to make video essays in the first place. Great work. I watch a fair amount of commentary channels, for example, Gamer from Mars and Turkey Tom. There's a travel vlogger I like a lot named Peter Santinello that does just like very good deep dives into the local culture of the places that he goes. Big fan of Geography Now for kind of the same reason. I love Sarah Dietschy. Her content is awesome, even though I'm not really into photography and tech. She just does such a good job of putting herself into her content. And a lot of random stuff like LGR, Lazy Game Reviewer. I could watch him like install a 3DFX2 card for 20 minutes, no problem. Recently, we've been watching a lot of Larry Lawton. He's like a prison crime kind of YouTuber who does a really good job. Big Herc, of course, has to be mentioned there as well. He's maybe the best prison YouTuber. And of course, Drew Gooden. I mean, if you don't like Drew Gooden, I don't know what to say. There's something wrong with you and you should probably seek help.
Hey guys, welcome back to the middle of the jungle. Someone please help me, I'm stuck.
All right, my friends, that does it for this edition of Viewer Comments. Thank you very much to everybody who watches and comments. That is my favorite part of this. There's a reason why I read all the comments, and it's because I genuinely care what you all have to say. I value each and every one of them, so thank you to everyone who comments. Before I let you go, I wanted to thank everyone who supports us on Patreon, especially those of you who support at the True Cult level or above. It is because of your support that we're able to do a lot of things. For example, the podcast. That's how I pay our producer and editor. Patrons get every podcast a week early. There's a members-only private Discord server that I'm in all the time. I do patron-only Q&As. I've been doing some giveaways. There's a way to have me review your music or artwork or video or anything else that you might want to get my eyes or ears on. So check that out at the link in the description. And with that, I will sign off for now, but I will see you next time.